Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's been digitally de-aged for your enjoyment, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Kitty Pryde looks like she's 11 years old in this movie.
And he's the anime dad, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, but what was that noise that hit? Did somebody's car door open?
I was, we're a family show, and there's a phrase that's going to keep coming up, and I made a bleep button today, just in case if we need to have any of that to go on. But welcome back, everybody. This week we're checking out X-Men Last Stand. It was they were like, oh, this is the last X-Men movie that we're doing, and then they made 8 more after this or something.
You know what's crazy about this movie is that I'm so surprised at how many things in my brain I moved from Wolverine, the Wolverine movie, over to X-Men Last Stand. Like, there's a lot of switcheroo that happens. That's not to say that it's great.
I was about to say, are we tipping our hat to a Dick Grayson here?
No. Oh yeah, it's a or as we like to call it in the business, a secret dick.
Indeed. But we hope you don't keep any of your secrets from us, because we love hearing from you guys at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. But the big thing we love is people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Doesn't matter what level you support at, you get pre-show, post-show, and Dinger Zone. Of course, it is a brand new month, and as such, we got to shout out the big dogs over here. Derek, Maria, Matthew, and Tim coming in at that $40 level. Thank you guys so much. It is
Thank you guys.
Amazing. Not to be outdone, we also have Alex, Brian, Jessica, and Nate coming in at the $20 levels as well. And of course, everybody in the $5 and under. Thank you guys so much. Every single month, it is just a blessing to not even for you just to donate. We were surprised that anyone would ever listen to this show to begin with, And we're so happy that people do on a regular basis see the value.
Not me, I'm fabulous.
But we're glad that people actually see the value in this show and give back to it. And in a world where there's so many podcasts that are all corporately sponsored, give you a whole bunch of ads that you don't want to listen to, you don't care about any of those people. Mark Maron doesn't know your name. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. But we do, and we have Zoom hangouts. Bruce and I hung out with a couple of our Patreon supporters and everything. We even had Jens all the way over from. He was in Germany, right?
I think so. He said Europe.
Yeah.
Europe's mostly Germany.
Europe's mostly Germany from an American standpoint. We're not very.
England and Germany and sometimes France.
Every now and then you'll have a sprinkling of France in there, and you're A-okay. But
you got all the German countries, then you got the Low Countries, and that's about it.
There's some Russia over there. Where's Russia start and China begin? I don't know. I'm American.
Schwarzenegger is from redneck Germany.
Yeah. It's the Modesto of Germany.
I like that, the Modesto of Germany.
That's pretty great, Adam. That was a solid bit.
But so we have that. What we're saying is we love you guys, and we love that you support this show. Share it out with others. Review us on iTunes and all that. And I didn't bring it up, and I don't have his name right off the bat, but I do have a 5-star review here, aka Humdinger. I forget his name. It was it was a couple of letters and numbers smashed together, and it's going to take me a minute to pull it up. But I'll just do it right here off the top of my head. Essentially, his review was, "This is a great show. When are you guys going to review The Dark Knight?"
Oh,
that is
we're probably just going to have to break down and do that. I think that any opportunity for specialness may have passed over the past 8 years.
Well, here's the thing. When we started this show, nary 8 years ago at this point, one of our things was we don't want to do The Dark Knight right off the bat because, specifically at that time too, that was the most celebrated comic book movie that was out there. And if we did that, we felt like, people would just go all right, well, they've hit the biggest one of all. Why do I need to listen to anything else that they do? But you guys have stuck around for quite some time, so maybe it is time we maybe bring out a Dark Knight review at some point. Maybe around the 8-year anniversary. Who knows?
Have we ever done Underdog?
No, but we need to.
It's been up for a Patreon vote before, and I believe it got a couple of votes. But maybe we can. There's a spot for all of these things.
Ooh, we need to spice up the show, and once a year, each of us can call an audible after the recording starts, and we can say, "Ha, guys, we're doing Underdog." And if you haven't seen it, you just got to listen to Sean talk about Underdog for an hour.
He's got the Blu-ray for a reason.
Done and done.
But you guys do get as kind of, if you're a Patreon supporter, you are essentially an executive producer of this show. You are helping make content here. We put a vote out to you guys every single month on what we choose. And because the way that December is working, because we've got a whole bunch of stuff that's coming out in the end of the month here from Spider-Man to The Matrix and all of that kind of good stuff. Our Patreon,
the Boba Feets
and all that kind of good stuff. We have our Patreon vote a little bit early this month, so we just got finished on a Patreon vote, but now we're gonna plop up another one here for you.
Okay, so first up we've got Underdog.
No.
And second we've got Return of Underdog.
Return of Underdog 2.
Then we got 3, Son of Underdog.
And 4 is Boss Baby for some reason.
Boss Baby. Why. And 5 is Underdog Goes to Rio.
So vote on those right now, Patreon. No, but we actually, so in our Zoom hangout with some of our patrons and stuff, they did say they want us to bring back some of the previous month's entries and stuff like that, because last month, very hotly detested race and everything, pretty darn close. I mean, almost a 3-way tie for first, for heaven's sake.
Probably contested, right? Not no,
I think he had it right the first time.
Anywho, we got we're coming back here with the Cowboy Bebop live action. Second choice is Wheel of Time. Third, Arcane, the League of Legends thing. We have Super Crooks, the new animated thing from Mark Miller and company that takes place in the Jupiter Ascending universe and everything.
Jupiter's Legacy universe.
Whatever. Oh.
Yeah, I said Jupiter Ascending last time, so it was your turn to say it this time.
Good. And, well, I'll tell you this: Jupiter Ascending, worse, much worse.
We just want people to know what they're voting for.
That's true. Don't vote
Which
for the
turd
other.
are they trying to polish? That's what they need to know.
All I need is Channing Tatum in futuristic rollerblades. That movie stinks.
Was he like a dog man or something?
Yes, he was.
Dog man with like laser roller skates, and then you have Eddie Redmayne, who needs chapstick like nobody's business. Enough to drive you insane. And the last choice is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean. Is that what it's called, Bruce? Did I write that down right? So
episodes 1 and 2.
Episodes 1 and 2. So, and apparently that's wild and crazy and zany. But we wanted to put that up to you guys. What do you think that we should do? And like I said, no matter what level that you vote at or that you support us at, you can vote for this and steer the ship of the old HHHMP. You know what I'm saying? So patreon.com/HMP. We really appreciate all of you guys for doing that every single month. Thank you. That is it. Let's get into it then, boys. Here is the trailer for X-Men: The Last Stand.
On principle, I can't negotiate with these people. Well, then you know what needs to be done. We're going to protect our citizens.
Make no mistake, my brothers. The humans will draw first blood. The air is still, and the night has fallen. There's only one question you must answer. Who will you stand with?
A major pharmaceutical company has developed a way to suppress the mutant X gene permanently. They're calling it a cure.
There's nothing to cure. Nothing's wrong with any of us, for that matter.
You of all people know how fast the weather can change.
Did you find what you were looking for?
The source of the cure is a mutant. More powerful than you.
Gee, something woke her. But she has to be controlled.
You know, sometimes when you cage the beast, I can't do this. The beast gets angry.
You have no idea what is upon us now.
Fury that this world has never witnessed.
Magneto's got an army out there. You go to war, you might not come home. She might not come home. You ready for that? We're not kids anymore. Hey, I'm not your father. If you want to go, be sure it's what you want.
It's time we make our choice. If you're with us, then be with us.
They wish to cure us. And I say we are the cure.
Look at me, G. We can help you. We can fix it. We can make it like it was. Stay with me, please.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for X-Men: The Last Stand. I think there's a comic book connection in here somewhere. Let's find out.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Well, we've never done the Dark Phoenix saga in X-Men before, so this should be interesting. Bruce?
You know, we've covered X-Men, and we've covered X2, and we've covered X-Men First Class, and we've covered X-Men Days of Future Past, and we've covered X-Men Age of Apocalypse. We've covered the Wolverine, Logan, and X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yeah. And yes, Adam, we have covered the Dark Phoenix, because I remember I had to watch that while I was in Ireland. I had to spend 2 hours not seeing the beautiful countryside of Ireland, but rather seeing the Dark Phoenix movie that... Come on. I probably made the wrong choice on that one.
Yeah.
So I've had to do quite a few X-Men comic book connections. So you might think it's hard to come up with something new, but guess what? You'd be wrong, because there's one very specific connection to this movie. Now, I don't know if at any point in this movie you were watching it and you felt like there were a whole bunch of characters kind of shoved in there, and we only got to see just barely enough to know who they are. They were all kind of one note, and it felt kind of weird, like they were shoehorned in. Well, the reason is because one of the editors gave Brett Ratner the X-Men Encyclopedia and said, put these guys in there. And that is true. That's what he did. He read the encyclopedia and he saw like one thing about these different characters. And I think it's got about 42 mutants in this movie. And I have to ask, what kind of guy would just read an encyclopedia about material and not read the source material? I guess I'm that kind of guy. Never mind. So anyway, that's your comic book connection this week, is the X-Men Encyclopedia, which has much better descriptions of many of these characters than X: The Last Stand has. And speaking of last stands, Adam, do you have a list?
I do. If that comic connection wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this least of the remembered X-Men series, because you might not remember that this movie's got everything in it. It's the last movie in the original X-Men trilogy, so you had to watch it. We've got bad CGI, good CGI, great acting, horrible acting, great writing, and horrible writing, a Stan Lee and Chris Claremont cameo. We've got stabbing, laser blasting, fire shooting, ice generating, claw popping, head spike hugging, Magneto magnating. Yeah, sure. We got the Golden Gate Bridge action, screaming at the sky action, black eyes galore, Shakespeare soliloquies, and Vinnie Jones saying, I'm the Juggernaut. So this movie's got everything.
Oh, man, that's a good list. You know, this movie, I'm just going to talk. Can I just jump into like some general impressions?
Please.
Like, this movie's kind of campy fun. Like it has individual scenes, like the Vinnie Jones quote that Adam just dropped. Like, you watch 7 minutes at a time, and the movie's campy fun. The problem is the story's incomprehensible. Like, it doesn't make anything when you put it all together. That's kind of my take on this movie. And, you know, I've definitely seen this movie before, but I remembered almost nothing after the young kid Angel cuts his wings off until Vinnie Jones says his famous line to Kitty Pryde. Like, all that stuff in the middle, I might as well have been watching this for the first time.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. And this is one of those movies that isn't hard to watch. I mean, it doesn't pass the phone test for sure, but it's not hard. It's not a hard view. You know, it kind of hits some notes that are fun, you know, but for the most part, this movie is nothing. This movie is nothingness. And
I'll tell you,
it starts off so poorly with the worst de-aging this side of seeing Princess Leia in Rogue One. I mean, it's so bad.
I don't know if that Patrick Stewart was quite pretty there.
Here's the thing, though. Like in 2006, we knew it was bad. Like
Yes.
And I think that was honestly, this was one of the roughest parts for this movie, is because with this opening, and the weird part is sometimes there's a shot or two, and they're usually more wider shots, where the CGI doesn't look horrible, but there are a couple where it looks egregiously bad.
Oh man, so bad.
But I think that colored people's kind of perception of the rest of the movie, because like you start off in kind of this bad spot where you're just like, ew, this is gross. I don't like this.
And it doesn't help that that's also like the most memorable part of the movie. That's the only part of the plot that kind of makes sense. So you're doubling down. Like that's what you're going to remember the most. And it's also the grossest.
I also remember, for some reason, Ben Foster being all throughout this movie. Like this movie's lousy with Ben Foster's Angel, but he's barely in the thing.
Now, supposedly, the Angel character back in the Matthew Vaughn days, and we'll talk about that in a minute, had a lot more screen time and got a whole bunch of stuff cut to come Ratner time. So let's talk about that. Let's kind of rewind the clock a little bit. So Matthew Vaughn, who we now know as the director of the Kingsman movies,
and First Class,
and Kick-Ass, and a whole bunch of other things, he had not taken off yet at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He had done Layer Cake, which was a hit, and he was kind of on that Daniel,
more known as a producer.
Exactly, and that was one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't know, a producer getting into his directing game, and sure, and Layer Cake was great, and then this was going to be his next big thing. And it didn't work out. They got all the way up until 9 weeks before shooting was to begin. They had, there are varying reports as to how much was actually prepped. With 9 weeks, I'm thinking there was a lot more than a lot less.
Oh, my Lord, yes. On a movie with half the budget of this movie, you have been working for 3 months on this.
But if you wanted to tell me that this final product was a story slapped together in 9 weeks, I'd be easily convinced.
And there certainly are elements of those, and you've got Zach Penn and Simon Kinberg are the writers, and so they've done X-Men stuff in the past and good X-Men stuff, and even like your Avengers. I mean, like they wrote the Avengers movie and stuff. So it's not like you're in completely incapable hands here. But I think ultimately this movie just wound up being like a cavalcade of destruction. All of the bad things kind of happened at once here, and you've got a movie then that's really a lot all over the map because it doesn't have one particularly unified vision.
Now,
can I put my tinfoil hat on for a second?
Sure.
Yes.
Before we get too far away from this, because I think that there's only one reason why Matthew Vaughn was not the director of this movie.
He said family, family or personal things were the reason. Nothing beyond that was really given.
I understand he's giving that as his reason because I read that as well.
Yeah.
I think the reason is because of sex pervert Bryan Singer.
Oh, I would believe that.
I absolutely think that's the reason why he was not the director of X3, because Bryan Singer, he even booted him off of X-Men later because Matthew Vaughn basically resurrects the X-Men with X-Men First Class, does a bang up job on almost no budget. That movie cost $1.50 and a really cool dog. He then we do get Days of Future Past, which is, in my opinion, still the best X-Men movie ever made.
Yeah.
And one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's infinitely watchable. It's an amazing movie, and that's a Bryan Singer movie. However, Bryan Singer came in and just kind of like pushed him around a little bit and said, hey, I'm going to be the director again. And so because of this reason alone, I think that's why Matthew Vaughn was never the director of X3, X-Men Last Stand.
I could certainly see
that. I think that makes sense.
I rest my case.
Also, they wanted to hire Joss Whedon to direct this.
Oh, really?
That was word around the campfire.
Yeah, Joss Whedon had written a story arc of X-Men in the comics called Gifted, which you can definitely see the influence of that run in this movie.
That's a great run.
He turned this down because he had something he thought was a better job offer, and that was to direct that Wonder Woman thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me, I want to do this for you because I looked this up, and I want to give you guys a little bit of a blast of the past and realize what was kind of going on at this time. So this is posted. This was posted on May 31st, 2005, over on Ain't It Cool News from Moriarty. And it reads as follows. Hi, everyone. Moriarty here with some rumblings from the lab. Did you hear that sound just now? I think it was the other shoe finally dropping. In talking to people in and around the X-Men camp over the last month or so, it became obvious that Matthew Vaughn was really excited about making an X-Men movie, but that he was also feeling a lot of pressure regarding this particular X-Men movie's production schedule. As with any film this size, there were a lot of people exerted control over the film, and Matthew dug in for a series of important fights. He managed to convince the studio to cast Kelsey Grammer as the Beast, something that he was very proud of, and together with Zach Penn and Simon Kinberg, he worked on the script that has evidently had actors all excited about what they're going to get to do. It looked like Matthew had finally reached a point where he was confident in the film that he could be made the right way in the time they had to make it, and he sounded ready to go. Now, 9 weeks out, we've got word that Vaughn is off the film and on his way back to England. As soon as I heard this, I called Marvel Studios to get their reaction, and I ended up talking with Avi Arad, who confirmed that Vaughn has indeed left the film. Quote, "This is not a case of creative differences," Avi said. "This is a personal decision by Matthew, and I can tell you that he is very heartbroken. He's loved this material, and he wanted to make this film. Vaughn has," end quote. "Vaughn has evidently already left the deal with whatever personal issue requires his attention, and Marvel and Fox are expected to make an announcement in the next few days regarding both the casting of Angel, who plays, quote, a major role in the film, according to Avi, and the new director, who may actually be someone who had circled the film earlier but who wasn't available at that point. Hint, didn't Joss Whedon just finish Serenity? Excuse me just for thinking out loud. Whoever steps in, they're going to have to hit the ground running. Avi says that they're still committed to starting work on the film in 9 weeks in Vancouver, and they're still planning to have the film released on Memorial Day 2006. Quote, "We think this is better than either part 1 or 2, Avi said. Quote, "This is the most controversial, classic X-Men story we may ever tell, and I can't wait until people hear the big idea that holds all of this together," end quote. At this rate, these guys are moving. We are not going to have to wait long at all. More as this story develops, and that's from Moriarty on Ain't It Cool News in 2005.
And then they hired Brett Ratner, and the whole thing went into the garbage.
Yeah,
Oopsie
with
daisy.
all these names getting thrown around, how do they land on Brett Ratner? And I know you're the Ratner apologist of the group here, Adam. In terms of his filmmaking, I don't mean the other stuff.
Yes.
Sex pervert Brett Ratner.
One of his, many of his, extra outside of movies activities, I will not endorse. But like your Rush Hour movies, I enjoy those Rush Hour movies. Like Even Money Talks is good. Family Man is for what it is. It's fine. I actually really, really like Red Dragon a whole bunch. But there's also a lot of things that are kind of hit and miss. Like, we remember liking Charlie's Angels back in the day, but when you go back and look at it, it's like, it's not really that good.
Not this fella. Not a fan.
Oh wait, no, that was McGee. It's all kind of it all rolls together.
McGee.
Actually,
Don't you talk bad about McGee?
but
he's made the best Terminator.
Oh my Lord. But yeah, here's the thing. Like him or not, talented or not, whatever it happens to be, and I think despite his his personal life and everything, I think Brett Ratner has at least a modicum of talent. In order, you wouldn't have gotten this far in the business if you had zero talent. But he was really in an enviable position to be put in 9 weeks out, to be thrown in to be a director for hire, essentially.
That's pretty rough.
For a movie that you had nothing to do with. It's like 89% of the work here is done. You just got to hammer it home for the rest of it. That's who wants to have that on their table, man? And, at least he's capable enough, and they probably put enough of a check down in front of him. They were like, okay, I can do this. But when you look at it, this movie doesn't necessarily look particularly like a Brett Ratner film, but it doesn't particularly look like a Matthew Vaughn film either, which is a weird thing.
No. There's a lot of... let me start over. So, straight out of the gate, there's something off with this movie, and you can feel it just from the beginning. And it's not just the bad de-aging, CGI de-aging to Magneto and Professor X. There's things like the what was so great about the first two X-Men movies is that they really are like the weirdos. There's something like you can feel this, that society hates these people, all of that. all of that is missing. Those words are there from time to time, but there really isn't. There, you don't feel it like you do in the first two movies. Mm-hmm. And so you already have one of the things that makes those first two movies great gone. And, Kelsey Grammer is such a bright spot in this movie.
And he did do all his own stunts, I believe.
He looks exactly like you wanted him to look.
Yes.
If you go all the way back to the Wizard, casting couch, articles back in the day, he was always the guy that, people put as Beast, and we made it happen. It was just like, that was one of the early, everybody wishes it to be, and then it did. And the makeup job is fantastic. They've got his body movements and everything down really, really well. So you can't complain about
high points
Beast
of this movie.
Yeah.
Is the Beast. Yeah.
Yes.
And I would have sworn he showed up, like before we rewatched X2, I would have sworn he's shown up in that movie just because I like the character.
Yeah, me too. And having Hugh Jackman back, he's so magnetic as Wolverine. He's just such a wonderful actor. He's great.
There are a couple of scenes though. There are a couple of scenes where I'm just like, ooh, Jackman was not in today for this one. There are a couple of those where I am just like, Explain. There's a couple of times where he is just like, it's usually like in the X-Men mansion and stuff, and they're walking around, and he has just this like, why do I have to come to work today? Why am I here and having to talk with these people with my hair like this, and I have to pretend that this is all cool? Can I just start slicing some dudes up? It feels like he's just ready to get to the action.
I'm just going to say,
stupid with this story.
Like, even in X-Men Origins Wolverine, a movie that nobody loves, Hugh Jackman played a better Wolverine than he does here. I think maybe he just didn't like Ratner. Like, that's just totally guessing on the sort of the energy he's given off, the chemistry. He really looks like he knows that this movie is maybe being made somewhat incompetently, and it shows on screen to me.
I think, like I said, I think there are areas where it kind of shows that for everybody. I think there are points where Patrick Stewart really sucks.
I think Elliot Page brought it. I think that he really this was his first big. This was his follow up to Hard Candy. So I think he really brought it and really wanted to was a serious actor and wanted to show it and thought it'd be fun to be a superhero.
I was looking forward to it, and all I saw was crying teens, and I'm like, spare me.
It's not really fair because there's nothing that the actor can do about it. But even though Elliot's 18 here, it looks like about a 12-year-old girl.
Oh, my Lord.
Sean. And that's
so young.
And then, you hear some of the behind the scenes stuff, and I think all you want to do is protect this person. And you're hearing like people are being a real jerk to
Of course. And, the other thing about Elliot Page in this movie is that they give him nothing to do at all. And then they make up for it later with Days of Future Past, where they're like, look, we know that we really did it best.
9 years later.
That was definitely an apology for what this movie did. Now, listen, there are a couple of Kitty Pryde's got some great moments in this with I love the running through the walls, the Juggernaut stuff, as silly as the line is and everything. Just the phasing through the walls and him banging through the walls in the very Looney Tunes style. I'm going to stand off to the side. I kind of like it. It's silly and dumb, but it works for what they're doing right there.
I think my favorite part was when Kitty grabs Juggernaut and goes like halfway in the floor. And
That's
then lets
very
go,
cool.
So he's stuck there.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
More stuff like that, and less just like, hey, let's do some ice skating while Rogue looks off all peeved. Oh, my word.
Rogue is the worst. She is the worst. That character is bad. The actress is bad as the character. I spare me Rogue. Like, it's one of the things that made the later X-Men movies so much more palatable is that they didn't make Rogue a main character in the movies. I don't even think she's in the other ones, is she?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe she had to get something in Days of Future Past, like
probably at the end. Yeah.
But are you trying to tell me that the person who won an Oscar at 9 years old may have peaked too soon?
Yeah, I am. She's awful. She's awful. And
it's like nobody wants to touch me. It's like, not with this attitude.
And no one ever will with that attitude. It's such a bummer that they featured her so much in these first three movies, because I don't know anyone who's like, oh, Rogue is my character. Like this is the character right here. And they finally course correct it with First Class and everything past that. And not to say that everything past Days of Future Past is some triumph of cinema. They're also awful. Also,
Age of Apocalypse is a brilliant film. I don't care what anyone says.
And so, just bringing it to a complete standstill is Rogue yet again in these movies. But then on top of that, you have, like you guys were saying about Hugh Jackman. I didn't feel it so much with Hugh Jackman, but so many of the characters who have been here from the beginning, so many of those actors have just completely checked out. Like Halle Berry, could you do less with what you have? She does not want to be there at all.
I disagree. I think she wants to be there. I think because she specifically was like asking for. She did not want to do this movie initially, and she kind of asked for more stuff to do, and that's why she has more to do in this series.
It was like one of those weird things where like the actor can't separate themselves from the role because they're if you come back, you get to be the leader of the X-Men. So she came back. And she was technically the leader of the X-Men in this movie.
I will say this. She looks fantastic.
Oh my Lord.
She's first of all just
she not looked fantastic.
I know, but she's obviously just a very beautiful woman, but like the Storm style that they've got for her is dead on. I love it. Her hair looks great.
They got off to such a bad false start though with the first couple of wigs they made her wear.
Exactly. She looked so good in this and everything. Like you finally go like, yes, I'm on board with this character because she looks like she's supposed to. She's got certainly more agency than she did in the other films. And granted, the biggest problem here is she doesn't have a lot to work with. And she's getting a lot of corny lines.
After living in Westchester, is that where the X Mansion is?
Yeah.
After living in Westchester for 4 years, that bizarre, who knows what country it was, accent went away.
Oh, that's true. I totally forgot about that. We didn't need that either. It's just like, listen, we like you. You don't have to sell us, Hallie. We're fans. We're here for you. Just come and be you, baby. It's fine.
Do you own a mirror? Like, you don't really have to try that hard. At least comic book guys are gonna come see you.
Yeah, it's like it's okay with us. We're not gonna hold you up to that kind of standard and just be like the accent was just not on point. No, thank you. Let her do what
I thought that she was. I thought she was just as bad as she's been in every other movie.
Again, I think the only reason she's as now. Okay, put it to you this way. What'd you think of John Wick 4 or 3, whatever the last one? 3.
I thought
4's coming out.
Sneak peek.
4's the one coming out, and I just looked at an image of a calendar with it in there.
She was fine in 3.
She was good in 3. Like so.
Yeah, she's good in 3.
Given the right material.
You don't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting in that movie, though.
Right now, granted, maybe they should do a little less lifting in this movie, perhaps. But Patrick Stewart, there are moments where he doesn't feel like he's in there, but I will say Ian McKellen is killing it in this movie. He is there to play.
He is so wonderful, and I forget how wonderful he can be because I just love the new Magneto so much more than I love the original Magneto.
You perfected perfection with that one.
Yeah, but my word, he is just so fabulous in this movie. And
I mean, Ian McKellen only has one gear, and thankfully, it's like an awesome gear. Because I mean, have you seen a poor Ian McKellen performance?
I'm sure I have not because I don't remember. And that's usually the way my brain works, where I'm like, ooh, that person's bad in that movie. And I store it away forever so I can bring it up at inopportune times.
I know I'm bringing
he's
it up.
He's one of my favorite wizards. I'll just put it that way.
I'm bringing it up because I hate it because I can't remember off the top of my head, but I've seen a couple where Ian McKellen just acts silly. And it's even that is kind of fun. Where he's just like playing a very lighthearted character, and that's not your big heavy and stuff like that, like this and Gandalf and whatnot.
He's such a good actor that he literally elevates Patrick Stewart's performances in these movies.
Yeah, and Patrick Stewart does look like he's kind of like he's floating a little bit in this one. Not horrible, but certainly not amazing.
They him, then they killed him. Why was he going to show up and do any more than he had to?
That's fair. It's. We'll get you
They
around.
didn't even kill him in a good way. Like, he didn't get some great death scene.
Super
Not to mention
lame.
he's still alive later on. Like don't even This movie has no role in the continuity of the X-Men
They
whatsoever.
did. They blew him up like like the head in Scanners. He just went. Poof.
I mean, they wanted to make everybody know that this, like, somebody was tired of these movies because I mean, they got Scott dies. I'm not sure how, but I know he does. I don't know why.
He screams in the sky and then he's dead.
Jean came back and nobody knows why, but then she's dead again. And it's like so many dead mutants by the end of this.
And no one
the only
questions
X-Men
it.
left is Bobby, I think.
Now, speaking of which, though, of the people left, there is so much murder in this movie. How is this movie PG-13? People are being murdered left and right. Cars are being just disintegrated. There are whole swaths of people that are turning to dust. I'm telling you, there's well over 100 deaths in this movie. It's wild how this movie's rated PG-13.
People were tougher in 2006.
Do you guys have a character that you absolutely hate in these movies? Because I have one. And it's not Rogue. Rogue is the one that I hate, but there is another one.
I actually got no problem with Rogue, but I'm not gonna like try to defend her either. I'm just saying I got no problem with her. The one I hate, and it's unfortunate, but I hate Cyclops.
Oh, wow, really?
Because I hated Cyclops so much in these movies, it took me a long time to realize that James Marsden's actually a fine actor. Like, it took me a long time to be able to enjoy him, and I realized it's just this one character I don't like and not the actor himself.
Here's the thing, though. That's interesting that you say that, because post this X-Men, run of Marsden's career and everything made me re-look at this performance, and I liked his performance more here. Granted, this is another case of what do they got him able to do? Crying in the forest and looking up in the sky and starting a big sinkhole, and all of a sudden Gene's there, he's gone, Bob's your uncle, story's finished. And I feel sad for the guy because he was given nothing to do.
It's just kind of poor casting because James Marsden has that 1,000-watt smile, and he's kind of like a jovial person, and Scott Summers does nothing but brood all the time in the corner. So like you've kind of cast him incorrectly. He's a good-looking boy, we all get it.
But he's also doesn't feel like he's big enough either.
No.
Just the big
Especially
kind of burly
when you've
leader.
got Wolverine, the size of the actor at Wolverine, you really need a bigger guy, I think, as Cyclops.
Right, because that was what made that dynamic interesting. Is like you've got the tall, handsome, buff guy and everything, and this tiny little runt dude. Like,
should have cast 60-year-old Liam Neeson.
He would have been great.
He would have been fantastic, pretending he has an American accent.
I was about to say that American accent would have been mwah.
Oh, so good.
I can only think of the Family Guy joke,
I'm America by way of Scotland. Shut up.
How about you, Adam? Who's the character that do you want me to go and you can keep thinking?
Yeah.
So the character I hate the most is Pyro.
I think that was my closest to one. That was Pyro.
I hate him so much. I hate the acting performance. I hate the character himself. He is just so unbelievably annoying. He's always preening and like trying to show everybody just how tough he is all the time. Like he never shuts it off.
It feels like it's being done for the camera, though.
It does, and it's disingenuous, and it makes me so crazy every time I see him on screen. Like what makes you think that you're Magneto's number 2, dude? You're not.
He is. He's such a suck up and really the worst. I think I agree with that. But then again, if we're taking Rogue off the table, which I think is the obvious move. Even Iceman's just kind of like a one-note boring character. He had his half a moment in part 2, and that's it. We're done with that. And at this point, you can't blame him either when he's just like, listen, the man want a girlfriend or something. He's like, they're all 25 years old. They're trying to get some action, for crying out loud.
And you know what? Was it a totally missed opportunity not to make Leech a few years older and then make that the love interest for Rogue?
Ooh, that would have been great.
Because they could have actually done whatever they wanted.
That was not in the 2005 encyclopedia yet.
That's the problem.
That's
why Leech didn't. That's why Leech don't get no loving.
But I will say this, though. I mean, while overall it ends up being kind of incomprehensible in a blod mess, this is very much an X-Men kind of story. which I really like. Where you know you have
it's almost an X-Men story, almost.
Well, right, because you have the different factors of is being mutant a gift? Is it a curse? Who are these people? It depends upon what your mutant powers are and everything. And it explores that to a degree that's good enough for this movie, I guess, but could have been even better.
Here's how I would say it feels like a pitch, but not the movie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Sean? Like here's the idea. They've got this cure. People are divided over it. Anybody who doesn't want it ends up getting it. Anybody who does want it doesn't. Now let's flesh that out. Well, they skip that last phrase.
Yeah.
They're just like, there's other stuff. I like the I like the idea of the gun that has the cure in it, and that's what you do to shoot the mutants to I thought that's
Pretty
a really
cool.
good
I also like it that, how old is Ian McKellen here?
70.
70
Yeah, I
something.
like it that 70-year-old Magneto has never encountered a plastic weapon before. That probably happens about day 7 of your career as Magneto, right?
And not for nothing, isn't there enough? There's got to be metal stuff within his grasp, because we've seen Magneto's stuff, dude. Boy is powerful, right?
Seriously, they jump out of a fully metal helicopter, and because they've got plastic guns, he feels helpless.
What if he started just flailing around like Dr. Smith? I can't do this. This is no good plastic.
Again, it's half measures. Like everything that they do in this movie is half measures. Because they have that really cool thing where the balls come out and shoot out the injections everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, like shotgun style, grape shot.
Right. And that is a great thing. But before you see that, you have to see the 15-minute long, lame as all get out, move the Golden Gate Bridge over to Alcatraz.
It looks cool.
Not really.
No.
For a 2006 movie, I thought it looked fine.
It is.
But it doesn't serve any story point. And that's where I'm saying these are great 7-minute segments, but they don't make anything when you put them together.
And also the other thing that's crazy, like I know you need the Golden Gate Bridge to because it's so iconic, but the Golden Gate Bridge isn't going to reach Alcatraz from where he's moving it from. Like if you're going to keep it still on the other, what you really want to use is the Bay Bridge, which is much closer to Alcatraz. But yes, I know. Only people in that area know. I know.
I think they should have just went to Sausalito for some reason.
No.
Everybody's in Sausalito.
Yeah, they got that great cheeseburger stand in Sausalito, so that's where it all needs to happen.
They did that scene on a Burbank soundstage because it looks so stagey. It is really, really bad looking.
It's awful. It looks awful. It's done poorly. It takes forever. They think that it's one of the grandest moments in all of X-Men history. It's not even remotely close. The simple fact of the matter is, we do see a lot of superhero movies clearly, but did anybody remember much about this movie at all? I mean, just from the start of the show, we were saying stuff like, I forgot 99% of this movie. And
I remember Angel cutting his wings off, and I remember the de-aged Charles and Magneto, and that's it.
Oh, by the way, the kid cutting his wings off at the beginning, that kid's great kid acting out of that guy.
Yeah, that's some good kid acting.
I love that. I thought that was a really good moment to put in there. But there's so much of it's like, and that's the thing with this movie overall. It's like there's waves. It's just you're getting hit with waves of good and then waves of bad are falling around you right after that first.
It's all half measures. Yeah.
You think, I'll just jump over this bad one. You'll get a little bit, but it's not going to be that bad. And then next thing you know, there's another one behind it you didn't see coming.
The fastball special looks ridiculous in both times they do it.
Bad.
It's so dumb.
It is bad enough to be campy, though. It's kind of funny. I can laugh at it.
Yes. But do you think that's what Brett Ratner was going for?
No, but that's the moment where I think that the look on Hugh Jackman's face during the fastball special, he knows this is awful, so he's not going to try to act like he doesn't think it's awful. He's like, yeah, I know. It's almost like the guy winking at the camera in Anaconda. It's almost like that when he does his fastball special.
Now, at the beginning, though, just jumping around a little bit here because you kind of mentioned something that maybe triggers a thought. Was anyone, even within the first time you saw this, fooled by the Danger Room in any way, shape, or form?
No, never.
It's like
I was the first time. I thought the first time I watched it, I thought that this was like in the near future and something was going on. And I loved seeing a Sentinel head fly across. And when I realized it was the Danger Room, I was pissed because I would have rather seen that movie.
well, yeah, of course. It's
You do see it just 9 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to wait for it to do proper. But like, there's I think like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes right into that scene, because again, like I said, it'd been so long since I've seen it, the memories are all gone. I was just like, this is a Danger Room, isn't it? And sure shooting right there. And I think I knew it.
You said it like that?
Yeah, I did.
Out loud in the theater?
Well, no, for the second time in the house, I was just like, I'm like, oh, that's right. This is crap, isn't it? Because I think I saw like Hugh Jackman is just, Wolverine's very nonchalant when a lot of action stuff is happening, but he's even more so in this one to where you're just like, oh, this is not real because Logan does not care. He's like he knows there's no real danger to any of this because he's as nonchalant as you could possibly be, even for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. He does give off that substitute teacher vibe, which is exactly what he is.
Yeah.
I
totally agree.
But I do love Scott's just like he's become the Wolverine now. He's like, get out of here, man. I'm gonna go on my own adventure. And then there are like stupid parts where when Jean is back for the first time and like you see he's standing above her, and in your mind you go, oh, this is a great role reversal from the first movie where she finds him and is kind of nursing him back to health. We got the opposite here. And then the movie just goes like, hey, we don't think our audience is smart enough to put this one together, so we're going to serve it up on a platter for him. Hey, this is just like last time, but with you in my place. It's like, why couldn't you have just let it be, man?
Now, I'll admit I might have been a little tuned out at times, but I don't think like there is a lore and a mythos in the story of the Phoenix Force. I don't think they explained a thing about the Phoenix Force or how.
Not even a bit. Not even a bit. The way that the 2-second explanation is from Xavier when he says, she's made 2 personalities just to deal with this.
Yeah,
it's all that's ever mentioned.
Because there's a way bigger lore behind the Phoenix Force than that.
Yeah, they give you nothing to work with here. That said, though, while what she's given isn't great, I think Famke Janssen is doing the best she can with what she's got.
I guess.
I mean, it's a lot of staring at a lot of CGI eyeballs. I get that, but
again, it's one of those things where I think that she's well cast as Jean. She's not well cast as the Phoenix.
And I always felt she was a little bit of like wizard casting. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think she was cast because of her acting prowess.
But when she has that, like, when her and Logan are getting it on and, the dark is there and then she goes over and that switch to, her kind of waking up and going, what's going on? I thought that was actually there. Like I said, she's got some moments of decent acting here with material that is quite below par.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know her from anything other than Jean Grey. I don't think I've watched her in any other role.
She had a good little run there on Nip Tuck.
I never watched.
I don't want to spoil where that character ends up, but my goodness,
I never watched Nip Tuck, so I don't know her role there.
Probably couldn't get away with it these days. That's all I'll say. Yeah, listen, overall, and of course, decent Stan Lee cameo with the hose at the beginning, and they threw in Chris Claremont with the mower.
And Chris
How upset do you think Stan Lee was that somebody else was sharing the spotlight with him for that moment?
But for the record, I think Chris Claremont was like an actor before he was ever a comic book writer. So like he ought to get a cameo.
What are you talking about, true believer? I'm the best actor you've ever seen. I'm a thespian if there ever was.
Like you remember those Insight commercials?
Yes.
He with that water hose, he kind of looked like it was going to be an Insight commercial to me.
Stan Lee here for Insight. If you and your lady are trying to get happy and there's nothing going on. Anywho, well, before we get to our ratings here, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question. It is how this third movie in a trilogy can be related back one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. But before I get into that, I do want to I have a correction that I made last week. I really, really punted a ball last week. And thankfully, Finley was kind enough to tell me, hey, you know how you went on for 20 minutes about the love triangle? That isn't the way it went. And so if you're going to listen to that episode where I expound for about 20 minutes on Olivia Munn and all of these people, I apologize. I was incorrect. And Finley, thank you for pointing it out. I feel like a bonehead because I literally talked about it for like 20 minutes. So thank you.
We were just sitting back going like, maybe he knows something we don't know. I don't know. I let him have it. I'm like, it sounds right to me.
I feel so stupid about it. I wouldn't if it was just like in casual passing. Oh, he got it wrong. But the fact that I went on for so unbelievably long about it makes me feel like a moron. So thank you, Finley. All right. Here's the prepared statement. Hello, Mr. Stallone. It's Sweet Chauncey from the internet. Kelsey Grammer plays Beast in The Last Stand, which even now, all these years later, feels like perfect casting. He's one of the very few bright spots in this dull as a fan-made Star Wars video movie of the X-Men. If you're anything like me, you're incredibly handsome. But you also know that there's something about Kelsey Grammer you can't quite put your finger on. And I hope you know what I'm speaking to here, because it's one part classically trained Shakespearean overacting, and one part I know there's something crazy about him, but I never look it up. Well, you don't need to worry, Mr. Stallone. I looked it up for you. So first, there's the fact that Kelsey Grammer attended Juilliard, which explains the whole overacting thing from time to time. Next is the fact that he has 7 children, 3 ex-wives, and during his second marriage, which lasted 1 year, he filed for an annulment and evicted the lady from his house, even though she was 3 months pregnant. Grammer claims that the reason why he did that was because she fired a gun at him.
Well,
2 weeks later, after his divorce was finalized with the third wife, he married a flight attendant 25 years younger than him. He has problems with substance abuse, which he's been arrested for several times. And Dan O'Shannon, who was one of the writers on Cheers, put it this way, quote, Kelsey would ooze into the studio, his life all out of sorts. Jimmy, the director, would call action, and he would snap into Frasier and expound on this very erudite dialogue and be pitch perfect. Jimmy would yell cut, and he would ooze back into Kelsey, glazed over eyes, half asleep, going through whatever he was going through. It was the most amazing transformation I'd ever seen. There's at least 2 sex tapes he has floating around. He's constantly getting sued and suing the women he used to be married to. He has an autobiography called So Far, which I'm sure is a fair account of his relationships and his ability to keep working after 40 years in the business. I haven't read the book, but I hope that one of these chapters is dedicated to the time he spent on the movie Expendables 3, which was written and starring you, Sylvester Stallone. Kelsey Grammer plays the role of Bonaparte, which is originally offered to Nicolas Cage. And before I wrote the Stallone connection, I would have wondered how they got to Kelsey Grammer from Nicolas Cage. But now the whole thing makes perfect sense. Think of it like this. Who would date a girl 30 years younger than them, be crazy off set, start talking about how important it is to live the life of an actor's life? I wouldn't be surprised at all to learn that both Cage and Grammer have bored their co-stars to death with that kind of talk. And there it is, Mr. Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is his own worst enemy, Kelsey Grammer. I'll try to do better next week. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Kelsey Grammer and Nick Cage in a movie, I want to see it.
Uh-huh.
Make it happen. You know, he's in the one of the latest movies that Kelsey Grammer's in. It's called Money Plane.
Oh, yeah, I know all about Money Plane.
Holy moly.
Uh-huh. It's amazing.
The set is a curtain people keep walking behind and out of.
Yes, that is also true.
A little bit of that. Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast.
There's 2 Lawrences in that movie.
Here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to check it out, head over to our subreddit, reddit.com/r/Hero Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does X-Men The Last Stand fall in the Robin rating system for you?
Well, first I'm going to talk about the important stuff, both of Kelsey Grammer's sex tapes, Dick Grayson's. Go ahead, look around on the internet. You'll thank me
they're
for it.
Dick Grayson's, all right.
Now, when it comes to X The Last Stand, like it's not even called X3, right? It's X-Men The Last Stand.
Yeah, X-Men The Last Stand.
I mean, why do they just dump Mystique in the garbage? Like why do people die off screen? Why are there no consequences? Why do we see like a tombstone for everybody at the end? Like I said, 7 minutes at a time, it's campy fun. The problem is I had to watch it for like 95 minutes. This goes like Stephanie Brown, actually, for me. Like 7 minutes at a time, it could be Damian Wayne, but when you got to watch the whole thing, it's Stephanie Brown.
Sean?
Yeah, Stephanie Brown for me too. This is the most mediocre a movie can possibly be. It's already leaving my brain. I will never think about this movie again until somebody goes, "Hey, what do you think of X3?" And you know, the new factor, because like you, Bruce, I think of the kid cutting off his wings. I think of the terrible de-aging. But the new one I'm going to think about now is just how many times Elliot Page had to put up with the garbage that was going on with the sex criminal who was directing the movie. I bet it's over 10. And I will think about that every time now.
It's Stephanie Brown's all around. And when this thing started, I you know, once you get kind of past the first de-aging CGI scene and everything, there are moments where you kind of go like, this might kind of be okay. And then, but about by 50 minutes in, you start getting a little bit antsy. And I think that's the biggest problem, is that like they have some ideas. There's some, you know, plot stuff there that's interesting, but it never really gets rolling. It feels like the movie that it was. It was a movie that was almost ready to go, and then the director popped out. We had to get a new guy in here. Didn't really have all of the, you know, cards together. May not have been necessarily the right guy to direct this anyways. Because he'd done action and stuff before, but never a whole bunch of stuff with special effects. So, you know, that plays into it as well. But overall, it is just kind of, it's just boring. It never really gets to where it could be, and that's the stuff that's part, is that there's potential in there somewhere. It just never reaches that level. Well, that will do it for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a second. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, check out my YouTube channel. This week, the new season of Demon Slayer got started in earnest, streaming on Funimation and Crunchyroll. And I do have my reaction to the first episode of the Entertainment District arc up on my on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Go check it out. It's good stuff.
Sean?
We have a new podcast called Hawkeye 30 Questions. You should check that out. That show is super fun, and our podcast is super fun. Please check that out.
Unless you're against fun, are you against fun? You ought not be. So that next week, of course, we're going to be going back to our Patreon selection. Again, we have Cowboy Bebop, the live-action one, Wheel of Time, Arcane from League of Legends, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, and Super Crooks. Those will be up for vote for you Patreon folk as soon as I can get it up there, probably Monday or Tuesday. And yeah, it'll be a good time. And I, again, want to say a big thank you to all of you guys, because being a new month and everything rolls right back around again. And I just want to say thank you to those guys. Patreon.com/HMP. That is it. We will talk to you guys next week, and our Patreon selection for Sweet Sounds of Kovacs on the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porches. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
You can never know what it's like. Your blood like winter freezes just like ice. And there's a cold and lonely light that shines from you. You wind up like the wreck you hide behind that mask you use. And did you think this fool could never win? Well, look at me, I'm coming back again. I got a taste of love in a simple way. And if you need to know while I'm still standing, you just fade away. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. And I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once I never could have hoped to win. You're starting down the road and leaving me again. The threats you made were meant to cut me down. And if my love was just clown